There's nothing like a Mexican standoff. Every participant is armed and threatening, but on the other hand, there is a small matter that everyone is agonizingly close to their own demise. But by the power of grayscale, it's exciting stuff, and that's exactly what we've got in our hands in the Rugby Championship. Take that like button on a roller coaster of emotion, and let's break down the current state of the Rugby Championship. For the first time in the competition's history, all teams after 2 rounds have 1 win and 1 loss apiece, and every team has something to prove and something to play for. So let's jump into where each team is at heading into the rest of the tournament. Now, as an unapologetic one-eyed All Black fan, I've spent more time evaluating their performance on this channel than any other team, but I've got to say, outside of World Cup year, I've never experienced such soul-crushing lows that this season has delivered so far. But then, on the other hand, the most recent victory against the Boks was as uplifting as a mankini and one of the most inspiring and special All Black wins I can ever remember. Finally, things started to click, and finally the much talked about turning of the corner appeared to finally happen. Now, Fozzie has returned his job, undergoing more pressure than an atheist questioned by his well-meaning super religious mother-in-law about his personal relationship with his God and Saviour. That's oddly specific, Tony. But at the end of the day, despite all the losses, his team put on that amazing performance. His players certainly back him, and the addition of Schmidt and Jace Ryan have already seemed to have paid dividends. The men in black have a favourable draw. 3 of the 4 remaining games are at home, and they would have to be odds on to get the chocolates from here, especially considering their record over the Wallabies and Pumas in recent years. Now, that's what you would think in any other year, but despite the AB's most recent heroic performance, 1 win a successful team doth not make. And the AB season hasn't just been below par, it's been that guy who loses his ball twice, finds a sand trap, then 10 putts it. So gone are the days where All Black fans can just expect victories. Long gone. Their opponents for the upcoming games, the meat lovers of Argentina, they've been a joy to watch this year, and all of the games they've been involved in have been as entertaining as watching Thomas Lavavini pick a fight with one of his teammates after scoring a try. That's some comedy gold right there from the Argentinian psycho. Coming off maybe the most impressive victory in the history of the Rugby Championship, where they skinned and gutted a wounded Wallaby outfit in a performance of real dominance. I, for one, really think that Cheika is the right man to be leading them too. He really seems to have them singing off the same hymn sheet. Now, just touching on Cheika for a moment, things may have gone pear-shaped towards the end of his run with the Wallabies, where he started to sound like that drunk guy trying to convince a bouncer that he wasn't drunk.
Have you played rugby, mate? Yes. Okay, have you ever tackled anyone by the hair? No. You've tackled anyone? Exactly. Who tackled someone by the head?
He's definitely a man who can inspire a team and thrust them towards great success, especially when he's new to a squad. He has shown us in the past when he took the hapless Waratahs to their first and only Super Rugby title, and then took charge of a Wallaby outfit that was reeling after Ewan McKenzie and his weird texting habits, and then blooming well turned them around to be World Cup finalists within 12 months. He also got Coach of the Year in 2015. With a resume like that, and a strong, flamboyant, expansive game that he's adopting, built off a physical forward pack, could this be the year where they finally win the Rugby Championship and start to cement themselves as actual contenders on the world stage? They've got flair and talent across the park, with Thomas Gallo being my favourite prop in World Rugby so far. This could truly be a historic year for Los Pumas. So moving on to the neighbours with the big dusty yard across the ditch. So far this year, they've lost the series against the private school boys of England and looked very average against an Argentinian squad high on meat. It's been well documented the Crims haven't had any luck, with many frontliners spending time in the sickbay, exposing the problem that the Wallabies have had for a long time, which is that they have the depth of an unravelled condom. Dave Rennie, who I believe is a quality coach, has been doing some odd things of late. In terms of his selection, he's essentially adopting the scattergun approach, throwing as much shit against a wall and hoping it sticks. But in this case, he's throwing 10s against the wall and just hopes that one of them plays a blinder. And now, out of nowhere, he's brought in Bernard Foley, the Iceman, to plug the gap. Now, with making so many changes in a crucial position, it's understandable that the combinations and timings are just going to be a bit off, as that stuff only comes with time on the field. What's as truly baffling as a vegan running a pig farm is Coach Rennie's comments that cohesion in the side is where they're falling short. No shit, Dave. You keep changing players at 10. and showing zero faith in anyone. That lack of faith only adds to a lack of cohesion, as the key men are not playing with confidence, as they know that they'll be shown the door as soon as they make a few mistakes. To me, all this chopping and changing seems like a coach who's desperate to move the needle in a positive direction, but is lacking the patience and composure to trust the process and doesn't really trust the men on the field to do the job. Rennie has benefited from everybody focusing on Foz's record this year, and his below average record has largely gone unnoticed, but you can be sure that Australia's diminishing rugby public and the powers that be will be none too pleased. One thing we know about Australia is that they're always dangerous, and there is talent there, and they seem to do well when their backs are against the wall. They've got the Saffers up next, who they've recently had the wood over, and if there was ever a year that they could reclaim the Bledisloe after 19 years of failure, 2022 would be that year. But for me, they're certainly not favourites to take out the championship. Now, that finally takes me to our Braai boys, the Biltong Bandits, the Boer Wars Brotherhood, the world champion Springboks. Now, they'll be stinging after not putting away a wounded All Black team in their spiritual home in Ellis Park. Now, if you've been watching the South African media of late, you would have thought they had an absolute shocker in the hive out. But I honestly thought that they played pretty dang well. It was just one of those epic contests between the All Blacks and Springboks, and the All Blacks looked as though they were playing for their lives, and South Africa were very, very close to taking it out. Now, I'm going to come up with the most unoriginal take on the South African starting lineup, but it has to be said, why the wasn't Malcolm Mark starting? I cannot remember seeing a better performance from a hooker than his showing in the first test. In that game, he wasn't only playing like a world-class hooker, he was playing like a world-class number 8 and a world-class open-side flanker, pilfering the ball all over the show. He's just an exceptional player. It was manna from heaven not having him on the field for the first 30 minutes, allowing the All Blacks to strike first and put 15 quick points against the box. To put the inexperienced Weber, who, as someone I'm not overly familiar with, it appears that his greatest skill is staunching out huckers. You know, which is cool, I guess, but I'd like him to be able to throw the ball in straight too. Now, the Boks will be keener than a dog in heat to rectify that loss, and will also want to get a little bit of payback on a Wallabies side that bet them twice last year. As we know, there are class players across the Boks squad, and it's so rare that a once-in-a-generational phenom appears, the likes of which the South Africans have been blessed with the ludicrously talented Lekanyuam, who has an incredibly high rugby IQ and everything else you want out of a rugby player. He can do things that other players just can't. I can't wait to see him play some more, especially not against the All Blacks. So, who are my favourites? Who doesn't have a hope? And does anyone know where I left my keys? For all those questions, I have no idea, and I bloody love it. Apart from the keys, that's just a pain. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. That would be pretty cool of you. I would really appreciate that. Go follow me on Twitter at Tones88. Ka kitanu, harira.